What's up, Manly Monday Live? Welcome to another Manly Monday Live, guys. And it is amazing to see you here tonight. I am so excited about tonight's show that I cannot tell you enough good things about it. Guys, it is so important. I want you to reach out to any friends you have right now. I want you to reach out to people. I want you to call people. And I want you to get them on this show tonight, guys. I have some incredible guests tonight, and we are talking about a very important topic. Tonight, we are talking about how you can help in this horrific crime of child sex trafficking, guys. Tonight, you have the power. And with my guests, you're going to be able to ask your questions and share and get all those questions that you may not even know that you had answered. What's important is right now, guys, I want you to reach out, text, call, whatever you need to do. Reach out to all your friends. This may be honestly one of the most important nights they could ever join on Manly Monday Live. Be sure and fill out the form under the video, whatever platform you're watching, whether you're on Facebook or on YouTube, it does not matter. There's a link in the description under the video. If you want to come on air later in the show and ask your question on air, in person, and live of our guest. If not, be sure and jump in the chat. And guys, if you can't see your little icon, whatever that is, and you're on Facebook, I need you to go to StreamYard.com/Facebook and authorize Facebook to see you so you can be an active part of the chat. It doesn't do anything more than that. It's not very difficult. But if you want to be seen in the chat, be sure and put that QQ in front of your questions and hit that link. Guys, without much further ado, we're going to talk about human trafficking and specifically child sex trafficking tonight. It's a difficult subject, but you can make a difference. And as men and women who are striving to be the best they can be, it is incumbent upon us to do so. I have authors Alan Smyth and Jessica Midkiff on tonight of Men Fight For Me, because they're not just authors, they're active soldiers on the front lines, guys. And I am excited. Guys, welcome to the live stream. Now, Jessica, you and I just got off a few minutes ago recording this week's podcast. And Alan, you and I had an outstanding show last week. Guys, if you missed the podcast with Alan, catch last week's podcast. And the podcast with Jessica will be dropping Wednesday this week. Guys, welcome to the live stream.
Thanks for having us.
Great to be here, Brent. 2 weeks in a row now. This is big. I like it. You're my new BFF.
I'll take it, man. I'm hoping all the best. I want to share what you guys have to share. It is such important work you are doing. I'm just excited to have you guys on tonight. Now, it's a live stream, so guys, you know, people will come and go, but what I want you guys to do, if you are watching this live stream, reach out to everybody you can, but I also want you to ask your questions. They are here tonight and they're willing to talk and answer these hard questions that not everybody has the answers for. Human trafficking, and specifically child sex trafficking, is happening all over this nation. I read y'all's book. It was heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking to read. The estimates are 300,000 children being trafficked every single day in our great nation, guys. There's just no excuse for that at all. And so tonight we're going to ask some questions and we're going to get into this. And before we lead off, do you guys have anything you want to lead off with or say?
Well, I would just say, Brent, thanks for having us. Thanks for shining your light on this important conversation. This is exactly what we need. We need every podcast in the world. We need all the TV shows, the radio shows, the magazines. We need everybody to turn their attention on this because, as you said a second ago, this is absolutely unacceptable. And as you know, Brent, the book that we have that you read cover to cover it's really for everybody. And it's a lot of great educational material and all stars like Jessica sharing her story and others. But there's a special emphasis to the male audience. And in my male voice, as someone who's in the work, as someone who's partnered with Jessica and many others, it's a survivor informed, if you will, and not just informed, but co-authored. And there's an important and an urgent message to men. Like I said, it's for everybody. And there's lots of women reading it and they're getting a lot out of it and they're actually loving it. But there is about 20% of the book that's an unabashed, unapologetic challenge from me to men, because the problem is men. If you can go back and listen to last week's podcast, Brett and I dissected that. The problem of human trafficking, of sex trafficking, is indisputably caused the majority by men. And so we need all the men, all the fellas to step up and figure this thing out. And we're here to help you do it.
Jessica, you got anything you want to throw?
I'm just happy to be here, and, you know, being able to come onto your platform and just spread this news. And I've said it before, you know, I like to reiterate, like, this is a human being problem. This is something that needs to be addressed all across the board. It's not just a girl or boy, man or woman. This is an everybody issue. And, you know, like, this topic is really near and dear to my heart. You know, like you said, I've been doing the work for a really long time, and I've been able to actually be blessed to co-author this book with a man that I trust completely with my life. And we're getting a really great message out there. So I'm just excited for people to want to get up and read the book and pass it on. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
And Brent, I'll just add, Jessica touched on something. She said it's a human being problem, if you will. And I don't know, there's some game, I've never actually played it, but I've heard of it, some kind of a card game called Crimes Against Humanity. And I don't actually even know what the game is, but this is a crime against humanity. Modern day slavery, ownership, someone asserting ownership onto another person, oftentimes a child, a minor, and then forcing them to be raped 6, 8, 10, 12, 15, or 20 times every single day with no days off. That's a crime against humanity. It's not it's not a Republican or Democrat problem. You know, it's not a rich or poor problem. It's not a white, black, or brown problem. This is a problem that all of us can sign on to and say, this is absolutely egregious and it will end. And I hear over and over again, if it ends in our lifetime, okay, all right, great. I can sign off on that. But in our lifetime, for some, is a long time from now. That's not good enough. It needs to end a lot sooner than all of our lifetime. It needs to end. It's a 911 emergency tonight, right now, for hundreds of thousands of children. So it doesn't do them any good to say it's going to end in our lifetime. It has to end right now, today, tomorrow, and we have the power to do it. And that's why we're thankful for you to have us on here and begin to, you know, share this message.
Now, guys, I want to share with all of you, in case you missed the podcast, here is the book we're talking about. They wrote Men Fight for Me. I have my copy here.
2 copies.
I do. I have 2 copies. And you know what? I will give one of them away tonight. So if you're into that, be sure and stick around for the drawing, because you know we love to give stuff away here. It's one of my favorite things to do on this podcast, this show, whatever. I do so many podcasts in a day anymore. I can't distinguish what my shows are. But guys, Men Fight for Me is an easy read, as far as, like, it's not very long. You can sit down and read this book in a couple hours if you're a big reader. If you're not, a couple simple sittings. And I think I sat down and read this book over, I don't know, 3 different hour-long settings maybe. But I'm a pretty fast reader. They mix in some great movie references to try and lighten the tone a little bit. But guys, you will come away changed if you read this book. I promise you. It will impact your life. If you don't come away wondering how you can fix things, how you can help, then you might want to check your doctor, because your heart's not working right. I'm just going to say it like that, because it's just the truth, guys. That there is just no way you can read this and not be affected. All of us, it doesn't matter if you have children, all of us are affected by children. And the fact that this is happening right here in the United States, in every zip code, is a gross tragedy and just a sin against humanity. It really is. Now, along with all many things going on tonight, I wanted to share something with you guys. On the website, we have these available. And guys, any proceeds from sales of this is on my website, go to Saving Innocence. 100% of all profit will go to Saving Innocence. We're not keeping any of that. That all belongs to them in perpetuity. But I wanted to show you guys something that just came today. Here is the actual shirt. So you can see what it looks like. We got this in just in time for tonight's show. There we go. So you guys, you can do that. You can go to savinginnocence.com, or sorry, .org donate and donate directly to them. But right there are 2 ways where you can start right now making a difference in this important thing. So we're already getting some questions starting. That's awesome. We'll start with these. I posted a question on your forum, but I'll repeat it. I live close to a highway, and it's rumored that trafficking is a huge problem in the cheap hotels around the freeway. What can I do to help? From Katie, and I'll turn this over to you guys.
Go ahead, Jess.
You want to hit it, or how you want to do it?
Well, how I can do to help, I'll let you talk about the problem a little bit more, but there is an organization, and they're on all the social media and websites, Truckers Against Trafficking. I would search for them, Truckers Against Trafficking. They're great. I've been on with them a number of times, and they are specifically training the travel industry on the warning signs, how you can get involved, what you can do. And so if you're interested in things near the freeway, cheap motels or bus stops or, trucker stops or the airline industry, Truckers Against Trafficking is a great resource. They have a lot of, videos and different things to look at. And as always, if you see something that looks really suspicious, there's a national hotline. Brent, I don't know if you posted it anywhere, but there's a national hotline run by the Polaris Project. And if you see something, call that hotline. And then they are networked with all the anti-trafficking agencies in the entire country and law enforcement, and they will take the next step. So that's a great place to go. If you see an active situation that you're sure is a crime, call the police, call 911. But if you're not sure about it exactly, call the national hotline. We can get that for you. If you don't have it, Brent, I have it. And go to Truckers Against Trafficking. So maybe, Jess, you can speak a little bit more to what's actually going on in that realm.
So yeah, it's really trippy because like living close to a highway, you're going to see a little bit of everything. It's just kind of inevitable. But usually if you have some of the motels or those roadside motels or hotels, and you see a lot of different activity going on, people walking around, people pulling over, driving up, kind of circling the block or whatever the case is, that is definitely human trafficking taking place or commercial sexual exploitation. And like Alan said, go ahead and call 911. And always remember too that sometimes you're not going to always see the kids or the adults dressed, I guess what would be deemed as inappropriately. Sometimes they'll be dressed like regular folks, have a backpack on, jeans, a sweatshirt, tennis shoes. It's kind of like hiding in plain sight, depending on what it is. If you're close to like a truck stop, highway situation, I know they usually try to refer to the kids and women as lot lizards, which is really messed up. That is a real thing. Go ahead and call and report it. So if you see a lot of activity, if you see a lot of cars circling around, if you see people hopping in and out of a car, it doesn't matter whether they're almost naked or they're fully clothed. If you suspect something, go ahead and say something. You can always report it. If you suspect that a child is being exploited, so Alan gave a few resources. Of course, call 911 and just report that, you suspect commercial sexual exploitation of a child, and you should be directed to where you need to report it. So.
All right, guys. And there's that number at the bottom of the screen. It's National Hotline for Human Trafficking. It's 1-888-373-7888. And that should be on your screen now, guys. Let's see. We can get into, we're going to jump into that question in just a minute, but let's, I want to warm up with this a little bit. For those of you who don't know, let's talk about what Saving Innocence is and the book real quick.
Yeah, Saving Innocence is an 11-year-old anti-trafficking organization. We're based in Los Angeles, but we do train and consult around the country. So we're national in that sense, but kind of the boots on the ground, if you will, are in Los Angeles County. And we're contracted by LA County to have a team of case manager advocates that are on call 24/7, round the clock. And when law enforcement intervenes or recovers what appears to be a child victim, we've up until now been focused on children, on minors, and of sex trafficking. then they call us, and we're on the ground. We're on the scene anywhere within 90 minutes. And then we basically, short story, step into that child's life, usually little girls, sometimes little boys. And we get her everything she needs for as long as she needs it. And it's typically maybe 8 months to a year, to maybe even as long as 2 years. We try to get them to the place where they don't need us anymore, and we connect them with other healthy relationships and other resources. We're sort of that emergency response team, strike team, if you will. And we do a lot of training and other things, but that's the essence of what we do, focusing on those kiddos that are out there. And when I say minors, yeah, we have some 16, 17, 18-year-olds that we're taking care of for sure. Our youngest kiddo from a few years ago was just 7. She had been trafficked, sold by her own father from age 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And we got her at age 7, and now we're walking when she just turned 10. So there's an unimaginable ugliness out there that we are fighting and pushing up against every single day. Our staff is particularly shaken up right now. We just learned over the weekend that 2 of our clients were murdered. And that comes after about a week or so ago, one of our kids was found on the side of the 110 freeway dead. And that comes after somebody was found at a bus stop, very obviously displaying sexual violence in her death. So we're not trying to stop graffiti on the freeway. We're not trying to get those people littering on the beach. It brings me no joy to say that lives of children are hanging in the balance around our country. And it's more populated, more concentrated in the urban centers for sure. But it is everywhere. The rural areas, it's present as well. Might look a little different. So that's what Saving Innocence is. You can go to savinginnocence.org, check us out, see what we're doing, watch a few videos, infographics that are there, learn about what we're doing. And then the book, how did the book come into play? On that podcast, we go into it, Brent, but just the short version is when I came to Saving Innocence 6 years ago, I realized something really quickly. Oh, there's no men here. I go to some training or some church event or something. Oh, well, there's one man. There's one. Wait, there's one. No, that's not. There's almost no men at any of those events. It's all women. They're all great. They're all awesome, passionate fighters. They're going after it. That's phenomenal. But the problem is that the biggest part of this problem is caused by men. Most of the buyers are men and most of the sellers are men. So there's this gap in communication. How are we going to get into the male audience? Because they're the problem. We don't want less women fighting. We want all the same and more, but we just want to add a bunch of men to it to balance out the messaging. And so I went to an event a few years ago that Jessica, the esteemed Jessica, was speaking at on a panel with a handful of other people. And the woman sitting next to her was someone that we knew from LA. And she was sharing her story of being trafficked in college. And at some point, she communicated that she gave up. I could no longer fight for myself. Like, she waved the white flag. There's no way to get out. I don't know what else to do. And she said something very powerful to me that was the impetus for this book. To me, I say to me, I was in the crowd, there's a bunch of people, but I felt like she was talking right to me. And she said, I could no longer fight for myself. I needed someone to fight for me. Oh my goodness. Well, I was already in, but that lit me in a fire in my belly in a way that I hadn't seen before, because I already knew the problem is men. We need a male voice speaking to men. And now I have a survivor of trafficking telling me that I gave up. I need someone to fight for me. And now how many other victims out there, how many other future survivors are out there that have also given up, and they need someone to fight for them? And the hordes of men, many thousands of men out there, they're just not going to hear a challenge very well from their wife or a woman. I mean, that's just the fact. They're not going to hear a challenge on their pornography use and other things from women. They're going to need a man-to-man, male voice calling them out. And so that was the impetus of the book. And I went to Jessica and I said, Jessica, this is what I'm thinking about. This is on my heart and my mind, and a couple other friends of ours that, are survivors as well. And I said, you want to co-author, you want to write it with me. I'll kind of be the male voice guy, and you bring it to life with your life stories. What do you think? And Jessica said immediately, she said, yes. Go ahead, Jess. I'll turn it over to you. Tell me why you got involved with the book.
Well, I mean, first off, I want to help people. Like, it's supposed to be meant to like build upon something for the present all the way to the future when we're no longer here, to continue to plant seeds and understand that this is a human problem. So I will say, and I've said it before, but how I ended up getting into the book, because I'm gonna tell everybody now, I don't trust men too well. I'm cordial, I'm kind, or whatever the case is, but I'm kind of like, ooh, get away from me. But with Alan, you know, it was great because he established a relationship with me before anything. He's always been who he says he is. He's one of my extremely 100% trusted men in my life. I trust him with my life. And he came to me one day and asked me if I wanted to do the book. And I thought, and I was like, yeah, I want to do that. I want to do that with him. And I've had other people over the years, approach me to do a book, but it just didn't seem right or like the right time, or it was just about my story. And this issue is so much bigger than my one story. You know what I mean? And Alan came where he was like, we need to speak to the guys. We need to get out there. We need to do something. Like, let's tackle, the sickness at the root, and I bought it because I was like, this is what we need. No one's doing this. No one's speaking out to the guys and encouraging the authentic masculinity, encouraging respect and care for, women or just others in general. And like Alan said, men are a part of the problem, but men definitely can be a part of the solution. And there are some men that are a part of the solution, but we need more, and I bought it. I bought into the book because I believe in its mission. I believe in the people that all wrote and contributed. I'm on board, and anything with me is I'm not jumping on unless I'm 100% sure. So, and I was 100% sure. And I know that this book is going to reach a lot of people one way or another, because we're going to be tackling some hard issues, but there are going to be some really simple solutions that people never really truly understood or knew they could be a part of. It's going to be so easy. Once you pick it up and read it, it's going to like blow your mind. It's just going to open everything up. It's going to pop the bubble, and you're going to see everything in a new light, and you're going to be ready. I know you guys are going to be geared up to get out there and go fight the good fight. So I'm pumped about the book. My guys are pumped about the book. Let's get it. Let's change some lives.
Okay.
So.
All right, guys, I want to jump in here for just a second. If you are just tuning in, guys, we're talking about what you can do to help stop child sex trafficking. Let me tell you how important this is. Okay. I've been live streaming now for over half a year, every Monday night. I have never been bombarded with spam before. I have never been hit with traffic and bombardment in my chat to block what is going on. I just had to ban 3 different accounts for bombing us with porn spam because people don't want us talking about this. So if you're sitting here watching this, guys, I seriously need you to take out your phones. I want you to contact everybody you can. You text them, you get them on here, because this is an important topic and people are trying to keep you from hearing about this. I've never had to block anybody from any of my shows before. I've got people trying to spam the channel with a bunch of porn spam so you don't see these questions and hear what's going on. Please, please, please reach out right now to people and get them on here. This is an important conversation that we need to have. Now, guys, I'm going to kick into our next question. And Sarah would like to know, because we live in the middle of nowhere, what can I do in a small rural town to help?
Well, in the book, we talk about the first step, Brent, is to look in the mirror. It's the name of one of the chapters. And we make sure our personal life and family and the way we're living is aligned with a culture that's not exploitive, a non-exploitive culture. It's not that we're just trying to stop human trafficking. The human trafficking is the weed that grows out of exploitive soil, exploitive culture. It's growing in that exploitation, the exploitive culture. So whether you're in a big city, you're in New York City or Los Angeles, or out in the middle of the prairies of the state of Washington or someplace else, step 1, look in the mirror and make sure your life lines up with a non-exploitive culture. Well, what could that mean? What is exploitation? A lot of people watching this right now or friends of theirs are probably regular users of pornography. That's a highly exploitive environment, exploiting these women and boys and men through pornography. Most of the actors in porn are not there under their own free choice completely. They're being exploited and coerced in some way, shape, or form. All right, so that's step one. If the men out there, be the right kind of husband and father to your own children. Your sons and your daughters are watching you every minute. They're watching everything you're saying and you're doing. What kind of TV shows are on in the background? What kind of music is playing? What kind of websites are you visiting? They are watching you. Your young boys are watching to see how you think and how you talk about women, including your mom, your wife. Your young daughters are watching you to see, oh, so that's how a man treats a woman. That's how my dad treats my mom. So that's what I should expect. So are you raising the bar for her? Or are you lowering the bar for her, for future boyfriends and husbands? That's the best thing that we can do, is to start living that non-exploitive way in jokes and conversations and TV shows and books and all the stuff we consume in our own home, and raise family of warriors that won't accept anything less. And then if you see actual human trafficking kinds of things that are actually more to the point, then kind of like what we said before, whether it's a truck stop or in your own town, call the national hotline, call 911. But, our kids need role models, healthy role models. So if you live in a small town, go volunteer at the local elementary school and teach the PE class, or help our young little girls desperately need to see healthy men who aren't trying to use them in any way, shape, or form, who are respectful, who are kind, who are strong. The best way we can attack human trafficking is from the inside out, and raise strong kids who understand the difference between healthy and unhealthy relationships. That's how I would answer that. And the overarching thing, whether small town, big town, do something. And step one is to get a little educated. Buy the book. Get the doggone book. Proceeds go to survivors. Follow Saving Innocence on social media. Follow Fight For Me book on social media. Brent's pushing it on his channels. Just get in the current. Learn some things. Go down the rabbit hole of Google. And there's various documentaries and things that are out there. You can find a lot of them at fightforme.net. There's a lot of connections and links on our website where the book can be found. And take that next step, and then it'll become clear once you learn a little bit more. That's a long answer to your question, Jess. I don't know if you want to add anything.
You covered a lot of it. You're always amazing. But going to the community gatherings or whatever the case is, going to your church, going to the schools, doing whatever you need to do. I'm piggybacking off you a little bit, Alan, but teaching kids about what the dangers are of speaking to strangers, or how to be treated. Whatever, like identifying, certain cues. Who are your safe people, support systems? Like, there's so much that you can do to kind of start combating it. You can go online, like Alan said, you can go on our site, savinginnocence.org, and pull up trainings. You can also find a lot of great information, like you said, on the fightforme.net. And then also too, like, if you guys have, like, I don't know if I can say this, but I'm going to say it. If you have LinkedIn, they've started putting small CSEC trainings up there, like little blurbs. Googling, like, there's so much you can do. Go to your local police station and see if there's any way that there's anything that they may have where you're able to give back. I know a high level of our kids definitely face like homelessness. So if you guys have like a homeless shelter or something along those lines in your community, to go and give back. Starting some type of a telephone, like a telephone tree. If you guys see something where you guys can start interacting with one another and kind of pinpointing, if you see something, then you report it. Like, get creative, but stay safe. Is like the best thing I can say. And the biggest thing Alan said was just get educated. That's what this book is for. is to start out that education. And he also pointed out too that there are resources within the book too. So you will not be shortchanged. This is a heavy topic, but it's something that's worthwhile. And so Alan was also saying, like, this is just like a portion of what's really going on. You're combating child abuse. You're combating homelessness. You're combating domestic violence. You're combating any type of violence against a human being. You're offering an olive branch to someone that really needs. So education and act upon it. If you don't have groups in your area or things that touch on commercial sexual exploitation, you can go online and get certified and start learning about CSEC and maybe start up your own groups and awareness. And so if you're in one town, go over to the next town and let's get it going. Let's start going up the highway. Let's start getting it done. Sky's the limit. Be creative. It doesn't have to be as heavy as you think it is. You know what I mean? You can make a difference. So, bam.
Jessica mentioned a couple times CSEC. That's an acronym that we use about every day, and it stands for Commercially Sexually Exploited Children. So the fact there's an actual acronym, describing this is it tells you how big this problem is. There is the trailer to our CSEC online advocacy course. We'd love for you guys to all pop in there. We just had the FBI bought a whole package of these for their agents so they could learn about this. And a bunch of survivors are in there and other professionals and law enforcement and advocates. And there's 46 training videos. So you go at your own pace, jump in there and learn everything you can about this. And that's a great resource. Thanks for putting that up, Brent.
Glad to do it. Now, one of the things I love about your book, guys, and you can't read this book. The writing was brilliant when it came to this, is you wrote this book so well that you have some great resources in the back, the appendixes, because you can't read this book without asking the next question of, what can I do? And not only did you put 15 actionable items, I believe it was 15 actionable items that you can do today. 15 actionable items that you can do today. But you also have a link in there for church groups and what your church can do. So guys, this may seem really big to take on as a person, and it is. It's huge, but all of us taking on makes it easier for everybody. And there are a lot of actionable items in the back of this book that you can do right now, starting with following Saving Innocence, following 5forme.net on social media, and sharing and reposting the things that they post and sharing the information that they're sharing. But you can also help bring this to more people because they have training for your church. And churches are a great group to get together to fight. I know our church groups love to come together behind certain things. So you know what? This doesn't just have to be your burden. You can take this and carry it to friends. You can carry it to your church groups. It doesn't have to be a church group. It can be a social group. But there are group trainings available to help with this. And that material starts in the back of the book and goes on to fightforme.net and savinginnocence.org as well. So you guys can get that resources there as well. Katie,
Brent, I would just add for your parents that are tuning in or will ever see this later on when it's posted. In chapter 3, the woman that said I needed someone to fight for me, her name is Rachel. She tells her story in chapter 3, kind of her first person story. And on the website, fightforme.net, I think it's in the book also, but there's a live link in there. She created a really, really valuable tool for teenagers. It's sort of the warning signs. It's, I get asked all the time, how do I protect my kids? Like, what do I do? What do I tell my kids? I now have a great answer for that. I never had a great answer for that. I now have a great answer, and go to the coolauntseries.com. And if you go to fightforme.net, it's in the back on the page that talks about resources. And Rachel is the cool aunt. And there's 9 videos, takes about an hour, went through it. It's actually really, really phenomenal. And every single teenager should watch this. So any parents that are out there, Brent, you should link this on your Facebook next time you post stuff. Link coolauntseries.com. It's the only one that I've seen. There may be others out there, but the only one that there it is. There's Rachel right there. The only one that I've seen that does what it does. Like I said, it's an hour. You get a little certificate at the end. There's a little test at the end of each video, kind of answer 3 questions. You get a little certificate. And then she has resources for parents as well, and groups like church groups. There's like a leader's guide for discussion. So it's kind of a turnkey operation. And whether or not you think your child is sort of vulnerable or at risk is irrelevant, because they are vulnerable and at risk. Every child is at risk. And take your kids through this video that Rachel's produced, the coolauntseries.com. It's a great resource for everybody.
Katie says, I agree having a positive male role models. I work at an elementary school. We only have 2 male staff.
Mm-hmm.
Students love to spend time and interact with them because they don't have it at home. Guys, the problems with lack of positive male role models are part of the reason that the fallible man exists, because it is such a problem these days. And you can do amazing things, whether you have children. Jessica and I were just talking about this a little while ago. Whether you have children, whether you're a father, doesn't mean that you can't be a father figure to somebody who desperately needs it in their life. You can volunteer with all kinds of groups, from Boy Scouts to your local schools to your local churches, and be a positive male role model for someone who desperately needs it. Guys, you don't have to be a parent. Twisted Designer says, thanks for providing the sites. There it is. Thanks for providing the sites. Hey, thanks for jumping on tonight, man. I appreciate you guys being here and sharing out. Now, the Cool Ant series is a great resource. Sarah wanted to know, where did I lose my questions? There they go. I lost a question. We unstarted it somehow. Whoops. What training is available to help people spot human trafficking?
Well, the Cool Aunt series does a job right there for your kids. They can spot. There's a whole video or 2 of the 9 that talk about the predators that are out there and, what to look for. Other tools for how to spot a trafficker. There's in the back of the book, there is a page, warning signs of traffickers. So it's in the book, Men Fight for Me. There's a whole list of about, a dozen things to look for. Jessica, why don't you tell us, what does it look like? What does a trafficker look like, and how can we spot it?
So traffickers, everybody, when you hear of instead of trafficker, when you hear the word pimp, you think of like the big pimp cup and the pimp hat and the cane and flashy and all this other kind of stuff. That's usually what we see, the caricatures on TV and the whole thing, but it's really, they don't look like that. They kind of wear the regular clothes. They may be a little flashy. They might be in white t-shirts and jeans, just to give like a little bit of a physical description. So some things like, if you have a child that's come in contact with an exploiter, if a child seems to be withdrawn or starting to act out, has become fearful to go outside or do certain things, constantly preoccupied on the phone, showing up to the house or wherever with brand new items, like a cell phone or like a designer bag, or, things that they would not normally be able to afford because 9 times out of 10, they don't have a job or their job doesn't pay that much. Just certain things. Like if your child or the kids that you're working with and you see some pretty big changes, it doesn't always mean that they're being commercially sexually exploited. They could be in the process of being groomed to be exploited. So how you would see child abuse, the things that you hear about child abuse, it's all aligned the same way with pointing out an exploiter. So you may not be able to see him one-on-one, but you'll see by who the child interacts with, that will kind of be more of a dead giveaway, more so than just seeing a person and being like, oh yeah, I know that's an exploiter, because they kind of, hide in plain sight to a degree. And we're in a different age where everybody's trying to be like super rich or have all the cute designer things. So everybody's starting to blend with one another. It's just kind of like watching the kids that are potentially being groomed or actually being exploited, and just being aware of how that child like interacts. So that's how you'll be able to link yourself to an exploiter. Another thing is too, the child may not be actually being commercially sexually exploited as of yet, but if a child turns up with an older boyfriend or girlfriend, That's more of a sexually exploitive situation. And 9 times out of 10, that person is grooming that child to be commercially sexually exploited. So like out here in California and in a few other states too, it's always been kind of cool to have the older boyfriend that shows up at the high school with some Taco Bell or some Chipotle, and takes you to and from school in their car and stuff like that. Just kind of keeping an eye out for people that kind of don't fit, and looking for people that blend, but seeing some of the telltale signs from the child. And usually you can tell when the kids are in distress or when a child does not belong, usually. So yeah, I hope that helped.
All right. Now, guys, I realized I haven't dropped this into there yet. Who wants the book, right? Who wants a signed copy? Now, by weird happenstance, it's signed to me.
I sent Brent twice. I sent you one, got busy, had to send a few more books out. I saw your name and I sent you a second one like a knucklehead, but you got 2 signed to you.
I do. I have 2 signed copies. So if you can live with it being signed to me,
we'll scratch it out.
Yeah. I can scratch it out for you. You can be like, hey, and put your name in if you want, or you can do it later. But if you would like a copy of this book for free, and what I want you to do, okay, I want you to read it and I want you to give it to somebody else. Okay. I am less concerned about the fundraising involved with this and more concerned about this information being shared with the world. So whoever wants it, hashtag book in the chat, and we will be giving that away in a little bit. But if you want this book, hashtag book in the chat, and we will draw for that at the end of the show, guys. I love to give these things away, but I want you to read the book and then I want you to pass it around. I want you to give it to as many people as possible. Tell the person you give it to read it and hand it to somebody else. And let's get this out there. Share this content, share last week's podcast, share this week's podcast with Jessica when that comes out. Share this, repeat it on social media. I want you to go, and all of you go and survive to at Saving Grace on your social media platforms and at Fight For Me Book.
Saving Innocence. Saving Innocence, not Saving Grace.
I want to keep calling it Saving Grace. Sorry. At Saving Innocence, my bad.
Close enough.
I said that enough times in the last week and a half. You think I got that one down pretty well.
That's funny.
But guys, at Saving Innocence, retweet them, repost them, whatever you do on your social media, and become part of the solution as men and women who want to be the best version of ourselves. Part of that is taking care of people who need help. There are tons of organizations. I have made this plea on both podcasts now. I am not a programmer, but if you are, I encourage you. Alan told us there isn't like a core site where you can go and look up human trafficking support, whether that's charities or support groups or whatever. Somebody who's got some programming skills that I don't, please make that website. Make an aggregate website for free that just gives you all the human trafficking and sex trafficking resources that you can possibly find, because we can't separate out the two necessarily, guys. There are a lot of children in need right now, and you can be part of that solution. Now, I know people are feeling overwhelmed because this is a heavy subject. These are little small things that you can do. So start small. You don't have to start big. You don't have to change the whole world by yourself. That's not what we're doing. What we're doing is taking little steps to make the changes in our lives and the lives around us. And by doing that, we will be better. Now, we've talked about warning signs. We've talked about some small steps we can do. As other questions come in your own words, guys, each of you tell us what you want people to take away from tonight.
Well, my passion and my voice is for men, for the aforementioned reasons. So I want men to take away that we need you. We are the problem. And that's actually good news, because when you can define a problem and understand it, now you can come up with a remedy that's effective. Now, I may have said this on your podcast. I can't remember, Brent, but in this last year, I had a little spot on my forehead, and the doctor said, let's take a look at that. And he kind of sampled it, said, oh yeah, that's a little bit of skin cancer. Come on in. We're going to dig it out. Okay, great. He dug it out, he stitched me up, and it's gone. And so the idea is, if you understand the problem, now you can have a fighting shot at coming up with an effective solution. Well, here we are with human trafficking and child trafficking. Like I said earlier, it's indisputable. Men are the problem, which is great news. 50% there. That means now we can come up with a solution. Now, a lot of men, I know a lot of men are, when they hear that, Brent, and some of your listeners and other people who hear this are going to be saying, I'm not out buying sex from anybody. That's pathetic. That's ridiculous. That's gross. I'm not doing that. And to which I would say, good. Congratulations. You're not out buying a human for sex. That's good. I'm glad you're not doing that. But we got to enlarge the boundaries of what commercial sex is. Ever been to a strip club? That's commercial sex. Ever watched pornography? That's commercial sex. Have you ever added to, rather than taken away from, the exploitive culture that all of this sandboxes everyone's playing in? Conversations, like we said earlier, music, books, TV shows, movies. We, if not actively have participated, we meaning men, if we haven't actively participated in the issue of trafficking and exploitation, at the very least, we passively allowed it to flourish right under our nose. We've allowed it to happen. It's happening. It's on our watch. And even if you men out there did absolutely nothing to help put gas on that fire, okay, good. I'm glad. There's a lot of men that have not done anything. But it's happening, and it happened, and children are losing their lives, if not literally, figuratively. And so now it's up to us as men to stand up and fight. I've got the Braveheart poster and Gladiator poster behind me. It's time to pick up a weapon and stand a post, as Colonel Nathan Jessup would say. I'm not saying go out there vigilante with a real weapon per se. This is that part's figuratively, but the part is stand up, men. Let's go. Let's push against this. Let's fight against this. This is on us. It's not somebody else's job. It's our job. It's your job. It's my job. Get off the couch. Get involved. That's what I would say. You're up, Jess.
How do I even follow that, Alan?
He's getting out of Braveheart.
Yeah, that's one of the movies, you know. So what I would like for you guys to take away today, because again, it is so heavy. All this information is heavy, and we've barely begun to scratch the surface. I just want you guys to take a look at me. I'm here. I'm a fully grown woman, and I'm a survivor of commercial sexual exploitation. I was a child being exploited, and I'm here living, breathing, I'm thriving. And I say that to say, every kid that we come in contact with, no, they all may not make it to the other side. They all may not make it out okay. That's just a reality. But there are so many kids, if they get the proper supports, if they get the proper people around them, if they get enough people to really wrap around them and love them and cherish them and protect them and grow them in the most beautiful way possible and help them to get back into life, into regular life, like there's going to be positivity on the other side. I never thought I would have made it to where I am today. And believe me, in my life, I've made it far. The kids that we worked with, that we work with, and we have worked with in the past, they've made it so far. And the biggest thing is getting that education, supporting, and knowing that a lot of times, I'm going to say most of the time, to be honest, where there's a will, there's a way. And there are a lot of people that are looking for that support so they can feel strong enough to stand up and not have to be abused and exploited any longer. So I'm just asking everybody to do your part. There is a silver lining at the end of this whole thing, believe it or not. As heavy as it sounds, it doesn't have to be that way. If I didn't have certain people in my support system, I can tell you, I would have never made it as far as I have. I would have never made it to the age that I've made it to. I would have never been able to do a lot of things in my life if I didn't have the proper supports throughout my life. And that support system changed as I grew. And guess what? When we work with the kids, the support changes when we grow with them too. You know what I mean? The whole point is to grow them up so they can get out there and be the best people they can be. And let's really put a stop to this. Because again, it's not a man or woman thing, a boy or girl thing. It's a human being thing. So thank you.
Well said.
Thank you.
Guys, I don't see any more questions, so you better hurry if you want to put this in. I only see one person for the drawing, so
Perfect.
looks like Twisted Designer is getting hooked up with a copy.
Nice.
Brother, I know how to get it to you, so I'll get that to you next week. I know exactly how to get that to them. That's a good friend of mine from work. So I will hook you up with that when I get back to work next week. Guys, I truly appreciate you taking the time to be here to answer questions, to help people out. This is such an important, I don't want to call it a cause. That seems to trivialize it almost to me. You know, raising money for the school field trip is a cause. This is such an important purpose. And all of you can be involved with this in your own way. This is such an important mission. Sarah's going to help me out. This is such an important mission, guys, and you can be a part of this. You can start today, get the book, go back to my podcast last week with Alan, catch this week's podcast with Jessica, where we dig into this even deeper. Alan, Jessica, thank you for spending the time with us today and taking the time to be here. Guys, as always, be better tomorrow because of what you do today. And we'll see you on the next one.